This week, as you've heard a time or two, we are reading Shlach Lecha. And I have to admit, this is one of those Torah portions that, many people have heard of. It's a more common one. It's a good story. But I find it baffling. We have these 12 tribal leaders. They're tasked with scouting the Promised Land. And the Torah makes it so clear. Oops, this is so windy. Hold on. It's so clear that it's so windy. I'm going to hold all my papers. I'm just going to hold this. The Torah makes it so clear, over and again, that the land is pretty awesome. It's filled with resources. It's filled with opportunity. And the scouts return after 40 days carrying a massive cluster of grapes, pomegranates, and figs. To a people who just last week were complaining about the monotony of the miraculous manna and how hungry they are, yada, yada, this must have seemed like bounty beyond imagination. And yet, as we may remember, 10 of the 12 spies come back filled with fear. They give a demoralizing, a defeatist report. The people of the land are like giants. We look like grasshoppers in comparison. Are they lying? Are they just scared, nervous? A common read is that after all that social isolation of slavery and wandering, the scouts are deeply lacking in self-confidence. We looked like grasshoppers to ourselves. The Hasidic Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson has an interesting teaching that reads against the grain. He believes that these 10 spies were not afraid of failure. They weren't afraid of being destroyed by these enemies. He believes that they were afraid of success. They saw a land they could inhabit and understood that it would take hard work. They would have to till the land. They would have to build their homes. They would have to stay put in one place long enough to build a society. They would have to put all these laws they've been talking about into practice, and it would be hard. It's easier in the wilderness. God provides everything for them. They don't have the stress and responsibility of material self-reliance. And because of these 10, the whole people are forced to wander basically in circles for 40 years before they can begin to build their home in the land of Israel. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks reflects that this was the mistake of very holy men who want to spend their lives in the closest possible proximity to God. They believed holiness meant separation from the world, monasticism, spiritual retreat. They thought in the wilderness they were closer to God. God was providing all. But as the Rebbe teaches, true holiness doesn't lie in separation from the world. It lies in engagement. Judaism is not about having our needs met by God. You'd be waiting a while. It's about drawing God into the world, into our lives, through the work of our hands, our minds, our hearts. The point is not to be cut off from human experience. The point is to be deeply, deeply personally engaged. Our task is to heal the sick, feed the hungry, combat ignorance, fight oppression, and challenge every tyrant who stands in the way of justice. Rabbi Sacks wrote that God wanted the Israelites to create a society where human beings were not treated as slaves, where rulers were not worshipped as demigods, where human dignity was respected, where law was impartially administered, where no one was abandoned to isolation, and no realm of life was a morality-free zone. We'll just keep it down there. We're good. We're good. That is the society I want. That is the society our world desperately needs. In Judaism, there is an idealism. There is a sense of what we are fighting for that is incredibly powerful and rooted in our sense of responsibility in this world. But I want to add to Rabbi Sacks's list and go back and do a little more midrash on this portion, because I believe that those scaredy scouts missed 3 spiritual blessings inherent in the land. And if we're able to hold up those blessings, I think it's going to help each of us practically find our way towards deeper connection and meaning. First is the blessing of curiosity and relationship. The scouts saw strangers. They saw a people from afar, and they reacted with fear and xenophobia instead of curiosity. They said, "Look how strong they are. Surely we will be destroyed." This probably sounds slightly familiar. Our country right now is in a deep moral identity crisis about immigration. When we hear foreign languages, see different customs, Do we respond with suspicion or interest? Is America strengthened by diversity, or is something essentially lost through the process of embracing pluralism and change? Our Torah teaches us so many times, 36 times, to love the stranger. But that's not just a moral imperative. It's actually a multi-dimensional spiritual practice. To love the stranger, first we must be curious about those unlike us. Then we have to talk to them. We have to listen to them. We have to build actual relationships with them. And then finally, through lots of work and intentionality, love can grow. The Scouts couldn't imagine connection with those people they saw in the land. They couldn't imagine connection across difference, but we must. The second lesson is the blessing of becoming stewards of the land. The Scouts fail to recognize that the land itself is holy, that God is not only in the manna and the cloud and in the fire and in the war against Egypt. God is in the soil. God is the air and the rain and the sun. The work it takes to cultivate the land is the spiritual practice. This morning, for those who know me, this won't surprise you, I was in my garden. I watered a little, I weeded a little, I planted some more peppers, cantaloupe, bok choy, eggplant, potatoes, sweet potatoes. Why not? I had some spaces. And then I noticed something funky happening with the carrots. They're doing great. They're like a foot tall, everything seems happy, but some of the leaves looked a little different. In all of my chaos gardening, I hadn't recognized that something was happening, and it's actually quite familiar. Dill. Those weren't all carrots. Some of it was dill. I hadn't planted it. Where did it come from? Maybe it seeded itself from the failed dill last year. Maybe, I don't know, I took the wrong seeds from the packet. Who knows? But there it was. Dill. I love dill. And I caught it today before it was 90 degrees all weekend and the heat made it flower and go to seed. I said a blessing of wonder and gratitude this morning. In my early morning puttering, I had experienced as close as I get to divinity. God was in that garden. In the noticing, I noticed the dill. In the realization that I am not actually the master of my small piece of earth, I'm a partner. I'm a cultivator. The mysteries of the universe are not only out there, they're right here. They're right in front of our faces, if we can just notice that. Now, those scouts, when they went to the land and they saw the grapes and the pomegranates and the figs, they just took them. They cut them. Someone else grew them. They didn't work hard for them. They just acquired them. They didn't realize that the beauty of the moment was not in the acquisition. It was in the process of making those things grow. That is the spiritual blessing. A third blessing. From our Parsha, we learn a bit of a paradoxical blessing. We learn the blessing of risk. Spirituality, being Jewish, being part of this community, requires some courage. Whether we're afraid of failure or success, I don't know, but we must be willing to risk vulnerability. The world is not always safe for Jews. It's not always safe for a lot of people. But it's in the arena of which we live out our values of justice, connect with others, and make our Judaism real. We are in the world. We must bring our Judaism even more into the world. And as we are in the world and proudly, happily Jewish, we need to build allies. We need to be bravely and visibly Jewish so that we can find friends, find connections, find other communities that we can partner with to do the hard work of change in this world. And those lasting bonds are a blessing. This community has worked hard over the years to build lasting bonds with our neighbors, with our friends and other communities. And we need to do more of that. We don't need to shy away. We need to delve deeper. Those 10 scaredy scouts weren't ready. They weren't ready for the land. They weren't ready for the farming. They weren't ready for those new neighbors. They weren't ready to really be an Israelite in a public sphere. They were people of the wilderness, but we are not. We are people of the world, and our Judaism demands malacha, labor, and avodah, sacred service. God's deepest blessings require effort. It ain't easy. There's stuff to do. There's stuff to build. There's stuff to make. There's connections. There's hope. There's always more. For our relationships, on our land, in our moral clarity, in our bold commitment to living our Judaism in full view of the world. These are our blessings. These blessings are not only the hardest one, they are what leads us towards true holiness. Shabbat shalom.